Hello and welcome to Dancing in the Shadows, episode 13. They say that's an unlucky number, but I don't care. I think it's a good number. Here's why. It's my 13th episode. I have reached the light that I've been seeking with all of your help. Knowing that you're listening, your private messages, they've reached me, they've helped, they've been a source of purpose and strength, so I appreciate all of you for listening, liking, sharing. It means the world to me, and it's really helping me stay on the course. And I already know, just by some of the private emails I've received, that I've helped so many people. And that's very, very important to me. The reason why I'm doing this, in part. So, thank you. I had mentioned in the previous episode some pretty amazing things that have happened in my life in just the last month. A month ago, I was in really bad shape emotionally, and in part it was due to a family situation that took place almost 6 months ago now. So on 11/11/18, and I can't make this up, 11/11/18, my little cousin disappeared. She had just turned 18. It was a huge shock to all of us. She went to bed, everything seemed normal. And the next morning, my aunt and uncle wake up and she's not in the room. There's a note, pretty vague, that basically said she's going to be okay. And it left my aunt and uncle in shock, all of us in shock, and really, really scared for her safety. Partly because she's raised in an ultra-conservative environment under this Jehovah's Witness religion. She was pretty shy. She was doing really well, it seemed. So the disappearance was a real shock. She left her dog behind. She was really attached to the dog. And when I spoke to my aunt and uncle about this, I asked him, I said, did you notice any unusual activity with her over the last year or so? And they said, well, she did seem to be talking to somebody through an app on her iPad. And I said, do you know how long this has been going on? They said, well, they thought maybe a couple of years. And I was a little left in shock by that statement, just simply because I would demand to know who that was if they were my daughter. But, to each his own. It's also important to give children a little bit of trust. But there should have been a little bit of guidance in this situation, I think, especially based on, the way the world runs now. Social media can be dangerous to a child. Yeah, I think there should have been more done here, to be honest. There's not much we can do now. Maybe a parent listening is going to think twice about allowing their child to freely surf the web, because there is a lot of danger out there. It's real. There was a real concern that maybe someone through her iPad lulled her into a place of comfort and in one way or another digitally kidnapped my cousin. That was a real fear. Adding fuel to that flame was that about a couple of years ago, she wanted to be referred to as a different name completely. Needless to say, I convinced my uncle that we needed to hire a private investigator. They reported it to the police department. They took a record of it, but you know how that can go. When it comes to human trafficking, it's really a big, big, big industry and a huge problem in America. There's some real concern here. So, convinced my uncle to go to this private investigator that was referred to me by a friend of mine who did some skip tracing. He was hired, $5,000. And my uncle, fortunately, just 2 days prior to my cousin disappearing, he received a Discover card with a $5,000 limit. My uncle doesn't have a lot of money. My aunt and uncle doesn't have a lot of money. My mom had asked me if I could start a GoFundMe page to help raise the money. So I said, yeah, of course. So I got to work on that right away. What I thought was going to take me a couple days to get it all dialed in, sat down with a cup of coffee, and I was able to nail it in just a few hours and have awareness, not only of her disappearance going out there into social media, but money started coming in. So day and night, working to the point of complete exhaustion. I would have to put myself to sleep. And I toss and turn before I can get to sleep, typically, because I'm in pain with my injury. But during the next couple of months, I found myself asleep before my head even hit the pillow. My roommate, he even came in a couple of times and was like, man, you need to give yourself a rest. You're still at this? Like, yeah, I'm not gonna I'm not going to stop until I find her. And it became my mission for the next couple of months. We raised all but $200 of the goal within 2 months. I say we because, yeah, I was the one putting it out there, and everybody's helping by sharing it, by donating. And it was telling the story on GoFundMe as we knew it at the time, with periodic updates. At one point, there was a former coworker that reached out and offered a possible lead. So it was working. There was more attention focused on the case. There was money coming in to pay my uncle back for all that he put on his Discover card. Things were happening in rapid succession. My brother had put out a post about the disappearance of the GoFundMe page, and I think it reached one of his friends, and she shared it with an actor named Taye Diggs. Taye Diggs, I want to thank you, sir, for your awesome gesture at sharing our GoFundMe. It really helped our Facebook side of the marketing take off, and we raised quite a bit of money and tons of awareness. We received lots of love from people, and so thank you, Taye Diggs, for your influence in helping us not only reach our goal, but bring more attention. It was very helpful. During this time, GoFundMe started to slow down. I reached out to my uncle and I said, I have some experience with video and video editing and, putting commercials and things out there. I thought that maybe I could reinvigorate the campaign a bit, bring more attention to it by filming a on-location kind of mini play-by-play of what we know and what we believe happened, the details of what my uncle and my aunt encountered. So all of this was in the works. My uncle agreed to it. It was going to happen on a Sunday around 1:15. I was to be at his house to shoot this little mini-sode of our family kind of detailing what happened, what my aunt and uncle experienced the morning they woke up and realized she was gone, just to kind of, again, bring more awareness to the campaign, raise more money to pay off my uncle, and really just, it also helps us. It was like therapy for us to, or it was for me at least, to keep doing what I needed to do to find her. So I arrive, and my aunt and uncle are very devout Jehovah's Witnesses, as is my mom and my grandmother. And they were all there when I arrived, which it wasn't too out of the ordinary. My mom is always curious to see me work and or just see me whenever she can. And likewise, I love my mom very much, and I miss her dearly. So I arrive with all my gear dressed up because I knew it was going to be on camera. My uncle asked me to sit down for a minute. He handed me a bottled water. And so I sat it down next to my feet and said, yeah, well, so what's up? So I was thinking maybe we can shoot the exterior of the house first while the light's good, because it was a cloudy day. And I said, and then we can maybe do some interior shots. And I brought some extra lighting. He goes, okay, about the video. I said, yeah. And he says, we're not going to do the video. And I was like, what? Why not? I mean, this is just going to help with the campaign. We're going to be able to raise more money and bring more attention to her disappearance. He goes, well, I spoke to the body of elders and we've decided not to do the video. And I said, wait a minute. We? I said, what do they have to do with this? This is your daughter and she's missing. I said, we're trying to help raise you more money, more awareness in this campaign to help find your daughter. And I was starting to feel very frustrated inside when I heard my uncle say, we're not going to do the video after speaking with the body of elders. And it was that moment where I realized how far and how programmed my aunt and uncle are, my mom, my grandmother, that they would subvert the campaign that's helping to try to find their own daughter. Because the body of elders, in reality, do not want this kind of attention in case she may have run away from the religion / cult. And my uncle was emotionless. He wasn't crying. He wasn't upset. He was like, yeah, we're not going to do the video. And he said, furthermore, we're going to go ahead and shut down the campaign and refund all of the money. And at this point, that level of anxiety and frustration was bubbling up towards rage, because what I just heard deceived my ears to the point of complete unbelievability that the last 2.5 months of me working day and night to the point of exhaustion and just collapsing for a few hours or until I could get the strength to get up and start doing it again. I lost weight. One of the most shocking things I've ever heard in my life, and that's to put it mildly. So I said, I'm not shutting this campaign down. This is the only hope she has at the moment. Shutting this campaign down is going to just kill the attention of this case. And she's still missing. I'm not shutting it down. And it was at this point I realized I'm the one that's holding the cards. This campaign I started, they can't shut it down. So I got up and I tossed the water to my uncle in just complete disbelief. I said, I can't even be here right now. And I get to the front door and there's a screen door, like a storm door. And it's locked and I don't have my glasses on me. I got my gear all in my hands. I'm trying to open this door and it's locked. And I'm so, at this point, just at that edge. And I said, open this effing door right now. And in front of my mother, my grandmother, and my already completely shocked aunt and uncle. And my aunt kind of rushes over, shaking, all scared, and unlocks the door. She didn't have to be scared. This was not about her. First of all, I want to say that it was not about my aunt and uncle. It's about the level of control that this organization has over the people that I love most in my life. That's what this was about. Anyways, I got out of there. I ordered a Lyft. It arrived. Actually, no, it wasn't a Lyft. It was my roommate, now that I think about it. He was the one that dropped me off. I remember him like going, what's going on? And I told him exactly what had happened. And he was like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, man, that's exactly what went down. He was like, what in the hell? I said, I know. He goes, I had no idea that they were this programmed. I took it upon myself to kind of break it all down for him, how it all works. I opened his eyes, I think, more than he was ready for, in a way. He was shocked because he saw me go through everything I went through. And I want to thank you too, sir, for your friendship. I mean, you helped me get through quite a rough time. Yeah, so a week goes by and I hear nothing from my family. Not one peep. They didn't reach out to me to see how I was doing. They didn't send their love or concern. I got more and more distraught because it just added to the depth of their programming that they wouldn't even reach out to me to see how I was, or even further explain why they chose what they chose, because they couldn't explain it. That's the level of programming the Jehovah's Witness followers are under, because the truth is they wouldn't have stopped this GoFundMe page if it hadn't been for the intervening of this organization. And I have to add, while I was meeting with my uncle, I asked him why the organization has a problem with the GoFundMe page. And he told me, and I couldn't believe my own ears. He said, the organization feels that it's fraudulent. And I said, how can they justify that this is fraudulent? I said, is your daughter still missing? He says, yeah. Well, yeah. And I said, do you know where she's at? No. Do you know if she's safe? No. I said, how is this fraudulent then? He says, well, they feel that the language suggests that she was trafficked. And I said, do you know that she hasn't been trafficked? Well, no. I said, neither do I. And until we know something different, that's the way it states, because we can make updates. That's what this is about. We update as we learn more. If we don't know that she hasn't been trafficked, that is not fraudulent. That is just what we feel currently, including the private investigator. The whole name change, the fact that she was talking to somebody for maybe 2 years, 3 years. I mean, how else can you explain this? I don't think you can. And that's where we were at. And that's why I chose not to shut it down. Well, during this time, this whole time, because of my efforts day and night, was keeping this story trending on the GoFundMe page. If anybody landed on the GoFundMe page, our story was being rotated onto the front page with others that were trending. So that means that our GoFundMe page, because of my efforts promoting it on Twitter and Facebook and the efforts of everyone else sharing it, we were receiving tens of thousands of visitors to the page every day. And many of these contributors were Jehovah's Witnesses from the congregation that my uncle belonged to. So the reality of this whole situation is that a Jehovah's Witness was not in control of the GoFundMe page, and they wanted it shut down. The power was in someone else's hands who's a non-believer. And I'll tell you why they are so paranoid right now. And this is going to shock everyone. And it really just has to do with some of the earlier episodes I had mentioned, the two-witness rule. There's an Australian case that happened in 2015 where the Australian Royal Commission, I believe it's called, or the Australian Royal Courts, were investigating an incident of child molestation within the Jehovah's Witness religion. We actually had someone brave enough to step forward to the police beyond the Jehovah's Witness Council and subverted the two-witness rule and went straight to the police, which opened this investigation. And this investigation called to witness governing body members, the highest of this organization, where it was admitted that the two-witness rule actually exists, that the Jehovah's Witness religion has on record just about every instance of child pedophilia or abuse on record in their archives of every member of every congregation in every country. They have a record of not only the victims, but those accused. And in Australia alone, there was 1,006 on this record pedophiles in the last 40 years in Australia alone, with over 1,800 instances of reported child pedophilia amongst these 1,008 individuals. And the police were never called because of this two-witness rule. Now, what you have to keep in mind is that Australia has a very, very low population compared to states in the United States. In fact, California has 15 million more people than all of Australia alone. So if we have any mathematicians out there and they want to figure this out, it's going to shock you. This religion, or this cult, is in many ways a playground for pedophiles because of this two-witness rule. And there's many other religions out there that have similar practices and similar problems. Let's just say that. It's a big problem, and it needs to be resolved. So I think that's where I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to have to break this up into a part 1 and a part 2, simply because it's such a long and convoluted story. But part 2, you're not going to want to miss. Thanks for listening.